Welcome to another episode of Merill Macro Talks, the channel we discuss everything from the stock market to the global economics and how the world events affect your investment. Marc, your host, I'm a fund manager at Merill Funds. I've managed money from Geneva, London and Valletta for over than 20 years. We will start with the part 1 of our journey, so please join us for this part 1. Thank you. Today, our journey, we will go to the south of Europe. I know we spend some time in the north part of Europe, but I think today it's time to go back to the south part of Europe. I think there is a very interesting country there. We get a strong conviction on it, and obviously, you probably know this name, it's Spain. Spain, it's probably well known for its tourist industry, etc., but it's not only that, it also have a very strong link with South America, and have been one of the pioneers on the renewable energy. So let's go into this new journey and this new adventure. So before we start our journey into Spain, let's do the classical disclaimer. 5 seconds on the screen, and it will come at the end of the presentations. Thank you. As usual, if you want to know more, getting more insight, I invite you to join merillfunds.com or our LinkedIn page, which is Merill Investor. Thank you. So today we will go into history, Banco de España, which is the central bank of Spain. We will go also, as usual, on the economic figures of Spain. We will also explore the banking sector, which is quite strong, especially as we know, historically speaking, the big bank present in Spain have quite an interactions with South America. As we know, it used to be the colony of Spain. We will go also, like I say, on the renewable sectors, which is quite playing also a strong role in the economy. And we cannot avoid one of the major sectors in Spain, which is textile. And we will finish, as usual, on politics and how's the landscape at the moment. So, before we start our journey, starting with the history, I just want to give you a little bit some insight. As I told you in a previous video, I used to manage a clean energy funds back to 2007, 2008. And at that time, already Spain was playing a major role on the infrastructures. Names like Acciona, Iberdrola, already quite present. So Spain was always, I will say, in the far front of be active on the renewable, which I say it could be also an exception here in the South Zone, compared, as we know, we are used to know, like we spoke last time on Denmark, and how the wind sector and especially the offshore wind farm are very important. But Spain already at that time, because we say after the crisis, and I would say the oil crisis in 1970, a lot of countries took, they took different roads. Like we say, France went to the nuclear, Denmark went to the wind farms. I think Spain already also, back to 20, 30 years ago, have been already in these directions. And that's why you will see some names who are quite active in the renewable. So now let's start on the history. Obviously, Spain, it's an old country, back to the Roman period, but also we know also the Islamic conquest and the Reconquista. There is also, as we know, and it's very well known on the subconscious, the famous, the Golden Age, when the conquistador explore South America and they extract the gold there. After that, in the 18th century, it was the Bourbon reforms, and a certain decline after this golden age, especially with the gold coming from South America. And after that, it was Napoleon War, independence movement. We have to also remember up to the 70s, Spain was a dictator under Franco. So it was quite isolated compared to the rest of Europe. But I think they catch up very well since Franco passed away in the 70s. Yes, so transitions to democracy for Spain from 1975 to 1982. And I think nowadays, like Spain joined the European community back to 1986. and of course joined also the euro in 1999. It's completely integrated. It's not like Denmark with a peg, or Sweden with having his own central bank. So here the central bank is just replicating what the ECB is asking to do. So that's the point. So now, talking about, as you know, we always like to speak about the central bank and the role. Of course, if we think about Banco de España back to 1782, who was initially named Banco Nacional del San Carlos, and of course, as any central bank, his objective was the inflation control, financial stability, and economic integrations. On the sovereign side, Spain doesn't have any wealth funds similar to Norway or the Gulf states. But as usual, Spain is also managing its big pension funds and of the public sector, so have quite an impact on the global economy. Recently now, what happened, as we know, the central bank have been acting. July 2022 was the last hike. Now, in terms of, I will say, in terms of performance and GDP, I would say Spain is really performing well, especially since since COVID took place, stimulus and etc. I've been quite, from a GDP figures, I've been doing quite well compared to its peers in the South Zone, but also in Europe. So I just want to show you, as usual, maybe the chart, and let's see and explore together. As you see, we always like to start with the nominal GDP, and after we go to the inflations, and finally we're filling with the real GDP. Quite an impressive here. The GDP is quite doing strongly. Obviously, the tourism industry is helping, since in the South Zone, especially since 2022, when the world opened after the COVID pandemic. It's a really strong impulsion, and we know the Spanish economy is quite dependent on the hospitality industry, but I think it's going clearly beyond that, and we can see here the inflation figure and also the real GDP. Quite, I would say, impressive if we say compared to the northern part of Europe, because like I said, the impulsions of the tourism industry was creating quite a positive vibe. I will say not only in Spain, but I will say Italy, Malta, etc. But Spain has really getting traction here. But what I say here, and why we like Spain, because it could be temporary, this catalyst on this boost on the hospitality. I think Spain is going beyond that because it has some very interesting sectors, and I want to spend some time with you to discover together. So to finish, as usual, the PMI figures here, and just to remind you that an economy is in recessions if it's below 50 in contractions, and if it's above 50, it's in expansion. So that's the figure here of the Spanish PMI. We would like to thank you for the journey on this part 1. And if you have been liking this, you should come and join us for the part 2. Thank you.